a season-high 7. He went 5 1/3 innings, gave up 4 runs, one of them unearned, and allowed 5 hits. There's a little half-swing flare into shallow left field. Might be trouble! Oh, watch out. Bregman, or rather Mott Hyde, the left fielder, diving out there, and he collided with the left fielder Vasquez. They are both down. Alex Bregman, who is starting at third for just the second time, motioning frantically to the bench. Right now, Vasquez is holding his left knee. I think Hyde collided. I think his head hit his knee. And looking from the binoculars, I think Hyde might be out.
I saw the exact same thing even without the binoculars. I mean, he just went after that ball. I mean, a brilliant play, but unfortunately a very costly play. But not only one, but potentially for 2 players. You're right, Torrey's hurting his leg because of the head accidentally crashing into the knee, so both players down and hurt, but of course the head injury more serious than the leg injury. Now looks like that Hyde is trying to get
Dan Turner and Grant Uford, both athletic trainers, are out there checking on Mott Hyde. We can't see Mott's face because he is being obstructed from our view, but he collided basically. It was a terrific, and somehow he held on to the baseball. As he was angling out into left, he went full extension. Vasquez was coming in, and as Hyde made the catch and was going down, it looked like his head collided with Vasquez's left knee.
Right, I saw him trying to lift himself up and come to a little bit, but no doubt he is still in really poor shape at the moment, as both trainers trying to make sure that both players will eventually be all right. But, oh, boy, that was very nasty out there. I mean, it just happened instantaneously. The impact, unfortunately, impacting both players, and not in a very positive way.
No, not at all. So again, I don't know. It looked like when I was looking through the binoculars before the trainers got out there, I thought it looked like Hyde might have been out. So right now you've got one person, I can't tell who it is, member of the Hook staff, looking at Vasquez, and both teams' trainers are huddled over Mott Hyde right now, and we certainly hope that Mott is all right. And we've got a couple of more people heading out onto the field right now. So Ward is out on the F6, but the most important thing right now is going to be the health of both players, but particularly Mott Hyde. And there isn't a whole lot we can report on. I remember it was it two years ago, I think it was, when Midland was here, and Leonel Campos was pitching for San Antonio. Midland had an outfielder who was with him for a couple of years. I don't know if he's in baseball now or not, because the A's released him in spring training, but Josh Whitaker got hit in the helmet by Leonel Campos' fastball, was not cold, and was out at home plate, and we had a very lengthy delay. They eventually called for an ambulance. It came onto the field right behind the plate, and they loaded Whitaker onto the gurney and took him to the hospital. Unfortunately, as it turned out, he was okay, but obviously a very scary moment. Well, it looks like Hyde is up, and I think he might be holding a towel to his nose, so you would think on a collision like that he may have opened a gash in his forehead, or maybe if his nose collided with Vasquez's knee. But it looks like he is conscious, as they appear to be rolling him onto his side now with his back toward us. And of course, the obvious thing in a situation like that is to make sure the player is immobilized. You don't want him to move his head much, just in case.
Exactly.
Rodney Linares, the manager for the Hooks, now strolling out of the dugout on the third base side and heading out. The 3 umpires are huddled together up the third base line. So it's 2-0 Hooks here in the bottom of the first inning. Nelson Ward, the first mission batter, with a little check swing floater into left field, and it looked like it was going to drop in for a sure hit. That's Alex Bregman, who normally plays short. Bregman is starting at third tonight for just the second time in his brief career. Both times have come here in the last several days with Corpus. And now Hyde is on his back as we try to look through the binoculars and can't really tell what they are doing right now. There are a few hook players out there as well. Manager Philip Wellman of the Missions is out there.
Of course, you have to be concerned. I mean, we certainly cannot speculate, and we're not, medical experts or anything, but you think of a number of possible things involving the head. Concussion, but of course, even worse, like you said, you don't want to have the guy move around too much because, the cranial portion of the body is a very sensitive part of the body, most critical part of the body without any question. And you just hope that if there's any injury, it's really eventually not going to be too serious, but it's up to what not only what the trainers have seen, but eventually I'm sure that both players will be examined and hopefully they will be all right.
Well, of course, now what we all know in this day and age about concussion and concussion protocol, I'm sure there's a protocol they're going through there as well.
Yes.
They have to rule that out. I mean, Hyde, well, if I had to say so, he's definitely not going to continue in the ball game, but let's hope that he's all right, and it's nothing more than maybe just got stunned and perhaps a little gash. But I'm sure they'll want to take him to the nearby hospital to have him checked out. Also noticed Roberto Pena, a catcher who just came down from AAA Fresno. He was with the Hooks last year, really good catcher. He went out there with looked like maybe an outfielder's glove. Vasquez, who is number 7, and I'm looking around to see if I see him out there, and no, he's still down. He's getting tended to as well. I didn't see him because of the crowd of people around. And again, with Vasquez, it was the collision with Mott Hyde's head and Vasquez left knee, and they're both hurt.
Yeah, Vasquez still lying on his back, Mike, and still writhing in pain based on what I'm also seeing as well. As the trainer for the folks, Grant Hufford, was working on Vasquez, while, of course, Dan Turner, the trainer for the Missions, along with another medical representative, helping out as far as making sure Mott Hyde is okay. Oh, man,
So,
no matter
yeah,
what, you'd never like to see it happen to anybody.
No, not at all. And to have 2 players hurt on the same play. So we'll see if, well, it looks like they've got someone who I think is part of the grounds crew. I can't tell who that is, talking on a walkie-talkie. They have opened the gates out there in left center field that lead to where the grounds crew has its shed and where they bring the equipment in, and I'm kind of leads me to believe that they may have called for an ambulance, which if that's the case would be coming in through the center field gate, coming in off the street there off Callahan, and coming in. But I would imagine that probably with any kind of a head or a neck injury, I mean, you could see when he dove, you could kind of see his head hit the knee and his neck snap back. So that was a fairly a violent collision.
Yeah, no chance, especially involving the head. Best protocol right now is to make sure he goes to the hospital as soon as possible and get himself checked out, because his overall future health is more important than baseball any day, no doubt about it. And we're certainly praying, our thoughts and prayers both to Vasquez and Hyde, that they will have full and speedy recoveries.
Very scary situation indeed. There's another gentleman out there who looks like he's also helping to administer to Hyde. I don't recognize him. I don't know if he is an EMT or perhaps one of the security. I know the Missions use San Antonio police for part of the security, and of course they would be trained medically to some extent. I don't know if that is who that gentleman is out there, but I don't think he's part of either. Well, I know he's not part of the mission staff, and I don't believe he's part of the Corpus staff either. So again, Vasquez on his back. Mott Hyde has his head turned away from us. And I can't tell for sure. I don't know one way or the other if he is conscious or not, though I thought I saw him moving a little bit earlier. But obviously, if he is, I would think in a situation like that, that the medical team would tell him, hey, just sit still, don't move anything right now.
Absolutely.
Make sure that everything's all right. Boy, that's sure a way to take the wind out of the sails, huh?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, it was just bang.
Hate to see that happen.
It's like running into a wall. I know.
So the Hooks getting 2 in the top of the first, if you might just be tuning in. Derek Fisher with a triple to center. And then when Jose Rondon took the relay and made a bad throw back to the infield, the ball got away, wound up behind the plate. And so Fisher wound up coming in to score. But as it turned out, Danry Vasquez with a 2-out single ended up getting raced on a caught stealing, but his single would have scored Fisher anyway. So both runs are earned.
Mike, I wanted to point out something. I had been a Salem Buccaneers broadcaster for quite a few years ago, but this was before I joined, and there was a similar situation happened at Municipal Field, but sadly it ended in tragedy. A young 18-year-old outfielder named Alberto Meade suffered the same kind of experience that Mott Hyde had. He accidentally had his head ramming into a leg, and then he went down. Sadly, he never recovered. Of course, I don't like to bring stuff like this out, but it reminds me of that story about what happened to a young man when his life was cut short because of that. But
yeah,
again, it just kind of reminded me of that. And I think about back in 1973 when George Theodore and Don Hahn of the Mets collided in the outfield, dislocating George's hip, and he was done as a player. And when he and Hahn went down, they both went down and just didn't even move, ball getting past both of them. But at that point, nobody cared. The main thing was they were all right. So that unfortunately, it's not the first time that this has happened, and God forbid, and now I'm saying that on the air, but you never hope that anything like this will ever happen again. Hopefully, if it never did, it would not be any serious consequences by any means.
Indeed. Well, the good news is I can see that Hyde is conscious, because I just saw him move his head. And in fact, his legs are up, his knees bent. He's still on his back, so he obviously has movement, so far as we can tell. So thank goodness for that. And again, Vasquez still down on his back as well. And Philip Wellman now, the mission manager, is making his way out toward the big open gate out there in center field. So again, we would suspect that an ambulance has been called and that it is en route and would obviously be coming in from back of center field out there.
I mean, it's just always a scary thing. It's just a freak, unfortunate thing. I mean, the focus is you're just trying to get to the baseball. I mean, whether you're an infielder or an outfielder, I mean, there's always that risk, and unfortunately, that's what happens. And sometimes, the collisions do happen. You don't see them happen very, very often, but unfortunately, this was a case when a young man was just trying to do his job and make a play, and he made a great play, but unfortunately, in the process, he did wind up getting hurt. But again, as we both are hoping, it will not be serious.
Even the starting pitcher, Brian Holmes, is out there in left field checking out what's going on. Meanwhile, pinwheeling his arms around, trying to keep the blood flowing in the arms, as he will, whenever we are ready to resume play, he'll be back on the mound. So they're actually bringing out one of those Cushman carts from the groundskeeper area. So I think maybe they have not called an ambulance. They're going to bring the cart out and maybe take turns with both players. I don't know, obviously, the severity of Vasquez's knee. He's still down on his back and has not tried to sit up. They have actually, looks like they've kind of immobilized the knee. They've got some sort of a brace on Danry's left leg, and they are now going to help him up, and he will need assistance. They're going to, a couple of guys with the Hook staff lifting him up, and they will put him on that Cushman cart.
And I saw him grab the knee once the impact was made by Hyde accidentally, and I saw him writhing in pain, turning over, and then when he just couldn't really move or anything, you knew he was in trouble as well.
So they will cart Vasquez off, and that obviously doubly unfortunate not just one but two players hurt, and both look, I would say fairly severe. Vasquez for sure, we know it's the left knee. And Mott Hyde, whose head collided with that knee, is still on his back. Is that gentleman again, who I don't know who that is. I'm assuming maybe EMT or someone along those lines is out there. Mission trainer Dan Turner is huddled over Mott as well as the Corpus Christi trainer. And now the cheer as they bring that Cushman cart around behind home plate with Vasquez on it to get him over toward the third base dugout. And again, I don't know if they're going to, if the plan is, if someone did call an ambulance to come in so they could better immobilize Mott Hyde, get the head strapped in and take him off for observation just to make sure everything is all right.
Yeah, they have to carry him off the field and into the clubhouse.
Well, as far as while we're waiting here, and we'll probably take a break here in a moment, but just to let you know, for the rest of the series tomorrow night, and again, the weather situation tomorrow could be a little bit dicey from what they're calling for, but if we do have a game tomorrow night, Luis Diaz would be on the mound for San Antonio, and right-hander Cy Sneed would get the ball for Corpus, and then the scheduled morning game on Wednesday, which will be one of two straight education days here. We'll have another one the following Wednesday. This Wednesday morning, Brian Rodriguez will go up against right-hander Keegan Ewell, who has pitched exceptionally well of late. And then the finale of this 8-game homestand on Thursday night, our pregame guest Michael Kelly, who was tremendous in his Double-A debut the other night, will go up against right-hander Kyle Smith. The Missions hit the road briefly. They'll be in Frisco this upcoming weekend. It'll be a 4-game series Friday through Monday. We actually have, this is kind of nice, looking at the schedule. We've got an 11 o'clock game on Monday for Getaway Day. Thank you to the Rough Riders for doing that. I would imagine because then we get into the North Division again, the two teams that we have not seen, Northwest Arkansas and Arkansas. They will be in town when the Missions next return home starting on Tuesday the 24th. So I'm guessing Frisco must have to go to Tulsa or Springfield. That's probably why they scheduled that morning game, so that the Rough Riders could get their stuff packed and not have to travel the next day. But that will be a morning game to get us out of Frisco, and then the Missions home the 24th through the 29th against Northwest Arkansas and Arkansas. And don't forget, if you have not gotten tickets yet, and I don't know what the availability is as of right now, I haven't checked recently, but remember, on Sunday, May the 29th, since Memorial Day itself is a league-wide off day, the Missions will be celebrating Memorial Day on Sunday the 29th. We'll have the post-game fireworks and that special post-game concert by Wade Bowen, and that is presented by Mission Mitsubishi. So you can order and print your tickets online at samissions.com. The ticket prices for that one date, because of the concert, will be a little bit different. Ticket prices will be a little bit higher than the normal prices. But you can check out and see what the seating availability is for that game, as well as all other Mission games here in 2016. So again, we're in the bottom of the first inning. Nelson Ward, a check swing fly out, caught on a phenomenal catch by Mott Hyde, who then collided. His head collided with the knee of left fielder Danry Vasquez. Hyde somehow held on to the baseball. Vasquez had a brace put on his left knee. He has since been carted off the field. And there is still the situation with Mott Hyde out there in left field, still being tended to by about 3 or 4 different people. And we are assuming an ambulance is on its way. They still have the center field gates open. I haven't seen a emergency vehicle. I haven't heard any sirens either. So we're just kind of in a holding pattern with the rest of you folks. As far as the rest of the Texas League is concerned, we already have one rainout today. Weather evidently playing an effect up in Springfield, Missouri. The scheduled game between the Tulsa Drillers and the Springfield Cardinals washed out. Meanwhile, in Midland, they started at 6:30 Central Time. The Rockhounds taking on the struggling Frisco Rough Riders, who have lost 5 in a row. The Rough Riders coming in with a 3-game lead over both Corpus and Midland. Those two teams are both 20 and 15. And right now Frisco has a 3-2 lead in Midland, and they're in the bottom of the 4th. And in Northwest Arkansas tonight, Springdale, Arkansas, the Arkansas Travelers with a 4-run second have a 4-0 lead over Northwest Arkansas. Northwest Arkansas would be the second place team in the North, and they are currently 1 game under 500, 2.5 games back of the first place Springfield Cardinals. Guess we can also take a look at some scores around the major leagues as we continue to hope for the best for Mott Hyde out there. But again, I saw him moving earlier, so that's the best news of all. And obviously, he'll need to be checked out at a hospital to find out the exact extent of the injuries, whether there was a concussion or anything else like that. But at least he is conscious and appeared to be moving a little bit. Let's see, as far as the big leagues go, Angels and Dodgers later on in Los Angeles. If you missed it, Tim Lincecum inked a 1-year deal with the Angels, a team right now which is starving for pitching. Of course, they've had injuries to their top 2 starters, Garrett Richards and Andrew Haney. Matt Shoemaker and Jared Weaver have not been effective, and so the Angels hoping that Tim Lincecum can rekindle some of that magic from his glory days, and they have signed him earlier today. Meanwhile, Cleveland in the Battle of Ohio, the Indians have a 12-6 lead over the Reds. That game is in the top of the 7th inning. Yan Gomes, a home run and 3 RBIs for Cleveland. Marlon Byrd has also homered for the Tribe as well. The Marlins in the top of the 6th inning have a 2-1 lead in Philadelphia tonight. Ozuna with a home run for Miami. The Atlanta Braves are getting shut out in Pittsburgh. That game is in the bottom of the 5th inning. It is 6-0 in favor of the Pirates. Tampa Bay is at Toronto, and the Rays all over the Jays. They've scored in each of the first 4 innings. They have an 11-0 lead in that contest. Steve Pearce has hit a home run for Tampa Bay. Kurt Casale has homered and doubled for Tampa as well. And of course, I'm sure by now you have all seen the highlights of that Donnybrook they had between the Rangers and the Blue Jays yesterday, and former Rough Rider Rougned Odor laying a right hook to Jose Bautista. You don't see that too often in a baseball game. Normally when you do see a benches clearing incident, there's a lot of pushing and shoving, but not too often you see guys throwing their fists around, but very seldom do you really see punches land like that.
What happened with Kermit Washington, the NBA almost.
Oh, Rudy Tomjanovich, yes.
And Willis Reed taking out, speaking of the Lakers, the entire Laker team one time almost 50 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, but very few times you do see punches land. That was just unfortunate. Appeared to be that Bautista was already still spoke to the media after the game. I know he's going to be pretty sore, even though I'm sure he's playing in the game tonight against Tampa Bay. But boy, he was still on his feet and still wanted to go after Odor, but former Mission Adrian Beltre was able to restrain him down. We see the ambulance coming in for left center field. And I see through the monitor, Mike, that even though he's still lying on his back, Hyde has been able to talk to the medical personnel, the other field personnel involving. So that's a good sign. But again, like you said, best precautionary matter right now, get checked out of the hospital, make sure everything's okay, nothing is serious, and hope for the best from here on out.
Yeah, so the ambulance right now is back of the center field fence in the grounds crew area and is slowly making its way into the onto the playing field. Mott Hyde is out there in shallow left field with a bunch of teammates and the staff around him. Elsewhere in the big leagues, the Tigers have an 8-7 lead over Minnesota. They're in the bottom of inning number 4. Ian Kinsler needs a triple to hit for the cycle tonight for Detroit. And Kurt Suzuki with a home run and a couple of RBIs for the Twins. The Tigers scored 8 runs in the bottom of the first. The Red Sox game in Kansas City postponed due to bad weather. Still to come, you got the Yankees in Arizona, and the Rangers are out west to take on the Oakland A's. Derek Holland will go for Texas, and Sean Manaea, we saw him a little bit with Midland last year, will be on the mound for Oakland. You're talking about baseball fights. And I've seen a few and a couple of real doozies in my day, but probably the craziest one I ever saw was when I was in the South Atlantic League. I think it might have been my very, very first year. I worked for a Pirates farm club in Augusta. We were down in Charleston, South Carolina, which at the time was the Padres affiliate. And you might remember a pitcher. He pitched a bit in the big leagues. Former #1 pick Joey Hamilton.
Oh, sure.
He was pitching for Charleston, and we had an outfielder on our team. He might have made it to Double-A. His name was Marty Neff.
Marty was with me in Salem.
You remember Marty?
Of course.
Well, Hamilton hit Neff with a pitch, and he may have buzzed him a prior pitch. I don't remember all the details. I mean, it's been 25 years ago or so. But anyway, Marty, on a play, he ended up putting the ball in play. And as he's going up the first base line, he makes a left turn. He hit a fly ball or something. He makes a left turn halfway up the first base line to the pitcher's mound. So he goes after Hamilton. All heck breaks loose. All the players from the dugouts and the bullpens are out there, and there's separate fights breaking out and all that. Well, down in Charleston, South Carolina, they had security there. They had at least a couple of guys who were mounted security. They were on horses. So all of a sudden I look down there, and you see 2 or 3 police officers on horses down on the field trying to get involved and break up a baseball fight, which I've never seen law enforcement get involved in trying to break up a baseball fight. Well, what happened is that during the process, there's guys down on the ground and in piles and all that. I guess I don't know if one of the horses got spooked or what happened, but somehow one of the horses planted its hoof in the leg of a player for the Charleston, South Carolina team, and this poor guy had a big hoof print embedded in his thigh from a horse, a police-mounted horse. And I'll always remember that because, for one thing, you don't see a lot of mounted police guys anymore, not in most parts of the country, and you certainly don't see them on the field in the middle of a baseball fight.
Only time I ever see mounted policemen is at the end of a World Series when the team's about to win a world championship at home. That's when you see them on the track. That's it. But otherwise, you're right. Hardly.
They'll be down there, I guess. I don't know. In New York City, do they have mounted police because of the traffic?
They still do sometimes in Manhattan. I still notice it whenever I go back home and visit. You do have mounted police in some of the most busy parts of the town, especially Fifth Avenue or Central Park. You see plenty of them there, too.
Well, just to let you know what's going on here, they have gotten Mott Hyde up on the gurney, the stretcher. He is sitting up. The stretcher is kind of in a upright position to allow him to sit up, so he is conscious, and he's got movement. They do not have his head immobilized or his neck, so I guess that's good as far as that goes, is that what could have been possibly a very serious neck injury from colliding with Vasquez's knee does not maybe appear to be quite as serious as we thought, as the ambulance is parked on the warning track out there in left field. So they're going to wheel him out there. And now the players, the trainers, the coaches, they all separate, and the Hooks position players will make their way back to their positions. And I'm sure Brian Holmes will be given an opportunity once we're ready to resume play to make some warm-ups, because this has been, I didn't actually look at the clock to see what time it was when that play ended, but we have been in a delay of, it's got to be at least 20 minutes or so, I would think.
I saw Hyde even wiping his forehead, probably wondering if he had been bleeding or so, but he looks like he's okay, and of course he's conscious and everything. Like you said, fortunately his head is not mobilized by any means, but any time an injury involves the head, no matter how serious it is or not. I mean, head injuries are practically serious, even though the player may be all right. You just want to make sure that internally there's nothing wrong, and we certainly wish Mott Hyde the very best.